Hey, what's up guys? So, Attack on Titan chapter 108 is here, and in this chapter, not only do we get an answer to the question that's been on everyone's mind this month, but we also get some pretty dark implications for where this story could possibly go. I mean, we all kind of knew there was a possibility that this could happen, but now that we're actually starting to see it, this chapter has definitely left me feeling uneasy. There's definitely some pretty ominous foreshadowing going on here. Now, in case you don't already know, these videos are going to contain lots and lots of spoilers. So if you haven't read the latest chapter, then what are you doing with your life? Well, I guess if you're not reading Attack on Titan, you must be doing something pretty important. But not I, says DarkLogic with great enthusiasm. Attack on Titan is literally my life. Anyway, let's get to this. Now, like I've said in previous videos, I definitely feel like Eren and Zeke are going to try to use the power of the Founding Titan at some point. And sadly, it seems like that's becoming more and more likely, and more clear that it would be against the wishes of everyone else in the Survey Corps. But before we get to all that serious stuff, let's answer the question that you probably already know the answer to anyway. So, who's the daddy? Is it someone we know or some random ass dude? And the answer is, drumroll, some random ass dude. He's so random, in fact, we don't even fully get to see his face. Well, I guess he's not totally random, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's start off at the beginning. So this chapter is called A Sound Argument. We start off at a dinner table with Niall and a few other guys from the military police, and they appear to be discussing the scene we saw in the previous chapter, where Yelena and the other Marleyan volunteers were held at gunpoint. Niall says it went well thanks to Pixis, then someone else mentions it's usually the MP's job to do stuff like that. Niall expresses some regret about the decision, saying even if it did work out, those volunteers did so much for us. To make them hate us now is just so. And then this guy named Rogue, sitting across from him, he kind of laughs and he says, feeling sympathy for the Marleyans, Niall. He tells Niall that just because they've done a lot for them doesn't mean that they should let them roam free. And he reminds them that they are the subjects of Ymir, that if Zeke and Eren got together, they could mess with everybody's memories. And yeah, he's got a good point. And on top of being able to destroy the whole world, that's a lot of power. I can only imagine how Zeke would choose to use this memory manipulation ability of the Founding Titan. Of course, he'd have to go through Eren to do that, but we'll talk about that more in a little bit. This guy also expresses that they don't trust Zeke, and nobody really believes that he's on their side, which is exactly what I've been saying as well. I think everybody knows that Zeke is shady as hell, and then he says that they should have gone with their plan to have Queen Historia eat him as soon as he got there. Then they start talking about Historia's child. This guy, Rogue, is also suspicious of the timing of her pregnancy. Niall seems offended, and he tells him that it's not their place to question the Queen's decisions or her relationships, and that the man she had chosen to be the father of her child wasn't working for anybody and wasn't seeking her attention. Rogue then points out that because of her pregnancy, the option to have her eat Zeke and inherit the Beast Titan is off the table until she gives birth. And he tells them that someone else must have advised her to do so. Someone who wanted Zeke to live out as much of his remaining tenure as possible. Specifically, he points out Yelena, saying she's the cleverest and craziest of them all. Yeah, that's probably pretty true. Then he says, it's not too late. Just make her a Titan, pregnant or not. Niall tells him that would probably kill her child, and it could kill the Queen if there was something wrong with her body. Childbirth is a big enough threat to her life already. To which Rogue replies, nations are destroyed by sound arguments like that. He then calls to the Marleyan servant for another bottle of wine, which is an interesting little moment. It's kind of sad that the Eldians have resorted to treating the Marleyans like the Marleyans treat the Eldians back in Marley, basically. But of course they think it would be too dangerous to let them roam around free, which is a fair concern. But anyway, the serving guy walks out and shuts the door. Then Nicolo walks up to him with a bottle of wine and says, this one's your recommendation, right? And this is an interesting moment too, because what is going on here? Why are we having this little moment with Nicolo and a bottle of wine? And why does he look so damn depressed? I know he's probably sad because of Sasha, but there has to be some significance here, right? Just seems a little bit ominous. I mean, maybe it's nothing, maybe he's just picking out a nice bottle of wine for Sasha's family, or maybe he himself has just become an alcoholic. But the kind of somber expression on Nicolo's face and the way the other guy kind of looks at him and says his name, seems like something shady is going on here. And I'm thinking that there might actually be poison in that wine, and he's about to serve it to those MPs in there, which means Niall's gonna die. That sucks. Niall's pretty cool. Well, let's just hope I'm wrong. I really wouldn't blame the Marleyans at this point because, I mean, come on. They took all of them hostage and attacked their home country. What would you do? So in the next scene, we get back to our crew, or at least what's left of them. Connie, Jean, Mikasa, and Armin are all sitting in a room together. And it seems they're also talking about Yelena and the other Marleyan volunteers being brought into custody. Armin says the other factions decided this while they were in Marley. They didn't tell the Survey Corps because they felt they were too close to them. Then Jean reasons that they really didn't have any other choice, that they're in a delicate situation as long as they don't know what Zeke is plotting. Then he says that Eren suddenly started going along with Zeke's plan. He decided on his own to contact Zeke. What did they talk about? Only those two know for sure. So it sounds like at some point Eren has had contact with Zeke. Now what kind of contact, we're still not exactly sure. I believe Eren said that the letter was sent to the Survey Corps. So perhaps in that one mysterious panel where we saw Zeke talking on the phone a few chapters back, maybe that really was Eren on the other end of the line. Or maybe they got in contact somehow before then, who knows? Then Connie, who's kind of off by himself looking at the window, asked them, "Did that look like Eren to you?" "It didn't to me. That wasn't Eren." Now that's pretty interesting, especially considering the cover of the magazine. And sorry, it's Bisatsu Shonen magazine. I don't know why I said Shonen Jump, but that is incorrect. But anyway, on the cover of the magazine this month, Eren looked like he was going insane. Like, he looks like he's going crazy. And I mean, yeah, that's not terribly surprising, especially considering the fact that he's got 3 Titans now, 3 different Titans with 3 different wills, not to mention all the potential memories he could recall from any of the previous owners, so it's not surprising that Eren might be losing his marbles a little bit. Anyway, Connie goes on to say, if he's capable of picking his half-brother over us, then we need to be prepared to cut him down ourselves. Whoa, Connie. Getting really dark. He's really pissed off about Sasha dying. Mikasa, of course, starts freaking out and she's like, "I won't let you do that." And Connie's like, "You too? That's the side you're joining, Mikasa?" And she just kind of looks down and she's like, "It's not going to happen. Eren cares about us more than anyone else." And then we get another flashback. So we see our characters building a railroad of all things. This month on Attack on Titan, Eren and friends learn to build a railroad. Yay! So they're all working hard and they're sweating their asses off. And Connie asks Johnny's like, "Is this something that we really need to be doing? Like, is this really our job?" And John's like, "No. But if Eren didn't open his stupid mouth about how we could train our bodies while developing the island." So then Connie and John are talking. And they're like, "Well, it's true that we are just waiting for an answer from Hizudu now. And they're saying our chances are slim, right? What were we doing again? Saying that Eldians have human rights too or something?" Good to know that freedom is important to Connie. He's really on top of this stuff. Anyway, John says, "Or that we'll sell them resources. Either way, we're trying to open a dialogue with the world via Hizudu. If we can just become friendly with more nations and start this diplomatic relations stuff, we won't have to rely on using Titans to rumble the world. And if that means Historia won't have to suffer, we're just going to have to grasp at whatever straws we can." And Hanji and Levi come riding up, and Hanji compliments them for working so hard in the heat. Levi's just like, "Look at all of you. How dare you get so big?" Poor Levi. Everybody's growing up and he's gonna stay short forever. So Hanji tells them that they received a reply from the Azumabito clan, and it looks like whatever negotiations they were trying to do through Hizudu have failed. And Hanji tells them that Hizudu is only interested in keeping their resources for themselves. They don't want to help them trade with other nations. And that the organizations out there who want to protect the rights of Eldians are considered freaks and nobody will take them seriously. She then says that pretty much everybody wants Paradise to be the root of all evil, that it helps bring them together and protect global stability. Which is interesting, because it's the exact same role that the Titans played back when everybody was still in the dark. Eren realizes that this means they have no choice but to use the rumbling and to sacrifice Historia. Levi confirms this, saying in their treaty with Hizudu that if this happened, they would enter a military alliance, backed by the Rumble. Armin obviously doesn't look happy about this, and he says, "So, does the world want us to repeat the same evil acts our ancestors committed 100 years ago? They've decided for themselves that we're devils, regardless of what our own intentions are. Why can't we all think of a path towards peace together?" Eren looks back at him and Mikasa says, "Probably, because they don't know. They don't know who we are, so they're scared of us." Hanji thinks for a second and she's like, "That's it. We could keep relying on Azumabito to go around to the other countries, but the outcome won't change." And she proposes that instead of just going through the Azumabito clan, that they go meet them themselves. She says if they don't understand who we are, we just have to teach them. And Levi looks pretty surprised, and so does everybody else. And she says, "Isn't that what the Survey Corps is about?" So then we see them all riding on the train track they just built, and they start talking about Hanji's idea. It seems that this might be where the idea to infiltrate Marley first came about, but Hanji's idea wasn't to attack Marley, but to go in undercover just to observe, just to learn more about them, and then hopefully, I'm guessing, find a way to communicate their intentions. Armin says it's fortunate that the Eldian language is common, but they'd still have to be careful about their accents and reading, and he expresses hope that if the world finds out they just want peace, something might change. Then Eren says, if only we had a little more time. Zeke has less than 2 years left. I only have 5. And then everybody just kind of looks at him. He says, we need to decide soon who's going to inherit my Titan. And then everybody looks at each other. And then we have this great little scene where everybody in the car is like, I will inherit Eren's Titan. No, I will inherit Eren's Titan. No, I will inherit Eren's Titan. First Mikasa says she wants to, but then John points out that she's an Ackerman and she's half Asian, so it might not even work. Then he mentions those plans between her and Hizudu, whatever those are. I guess we'll find out later. Then John says he'll inherit the Titan, because he's smarter than Eren and he has better judgment. And then Connie and Sasha have this little back and forth, where they both say they want to inherit the Titan, but then they call each other an idiot. Then Eren finally says, I'm not planning on handing it down to any of you. And John asks why not. And Eren says, because you're important to me, more than anyone. So, I want you to live long lives. Aw, isn't that sweet? So then everyone gets kind of quiet, and John looks over at Eren and he's like blushing. And John's like, why are you all red? What's going on here? And then Armin's like, John, it's the sunset. It's making everyone red. Connie and Sasha like pointing at each other. What, have they never seen a sunset before? What's going on here? We see Eren and Mikasa looking at each other. She looks happy, and she says, Eren cares about us. That could be why he got so combative with everyone aside from us. And she says, I think he did that because those feelings are so strong. And John says, you're saying he did it all for us? He says, you're wrong. No matter how strong you were, the old Eren would never pull away from the front lines against the Titans. But now, he sent Armin to destroy the port and brought you to the battlefield. Same with everyone else he said was important to him. Me, Connie, and Sasha. Mikasa seems like she's kind of struggling a little bit. She says, I think that's because he trusts us. Eren couldn't do anything if we hadn't gone, right? And Connie says if we hadn't gone, Sasha wouldn't have had to die either. Mikasa, what do you think Eren did when Sasha died? Do you think he cried? Do you think he was angry? Jean tries to tell him to be quiet, but he continues. He says, bastard laughed. And Mikasa and Armin both look kind of shocked. I guess this is the first time they're hearing this. Connie says, I wonder what could have been so funny. What exactly about Sasha's death? Tell me, Mikasa. Why did Eren laugh? You know everything about him, right? So, this is interesting, mentioning that Eren laughed when Sasha died. At first it looked like he was crying, but he was actually laughing. And yeah, that's creepy, but this isn't actually the first time that Eren has done this. Busted into laughter after somebody he cared about died. Remember that scene in Season 2 when Hannes was eaten by Dinah's Titan right before Eren used the coordinate? He fell to the ground and started laughing like a maniac. So what was he laughing about back then? So what was Eren laughing about in that scene? He started screaming, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. You're just as useless as ever. And he starts thinking about his mom. After watching Hannes die and be eaten by the exact same Titan who killed his mother, Eren is basically reliving the trauma of that moment. The moment that's pretty much shaped his whole life up until now. I think what Eren is laughing about, both in this scene and the scene after he hears about Sasha's death, is the cruel irony and the futility of it all. He couldn't save his mother, he couldn't save Hannes, because for whatever reason he couldn't turn into a Titan. I remember Eren has been through a lot of crap, and a lot of ups and downs about his personal self-worth. At one point he thought he was special and really important because he was the only Titan. But then he eventually realized that he wasn't that special. Then he realized he was special again, but even though he has this great power, I think that what he was probably feeling after he heard that Sasha had died was that same feeling of helplessness and uselessness that he felt when his mother and Hannes died. Again, I think he was laughing about the cruel irony and the futility of everything he's trying to do. The fact that no matter how hard he tries, He can't protect the people he cares about. The fact that he went on this mission to make sure that the people who are important to him are protected, and he ended up getting one of them killed. I think Mikasa's right when she says that Eren is motivated by his desire to protect them. After all, that is what Eren has always been motivated by. That and the promise of freedom from the Titans, or whatever else would threaten them. And like I talked about in my discussion about Eren a while back, Eren really hasn't changed all that much. He's remained steadfast in his goals and motivations. However, because their situation changed, and things began to get more complicated, his ability to do that became more and more uncertain, to the point where it's actually causing fractures within our tight-knit group. And unfortunately, another cost of Eren's actions, as Hanji said before, is their trust in him. It's clear that nobody feels like they can trust Eren anymore at all. In fact, they're even wondering if he would betray them in order to side with Zeke. Anyway, let's continue. After that, Armin proposes that they talk to Eren. Just him and Mikasa. And apparently they're gonna have to bargain with somebody to even talk to him. Jean asks him what that's going to accomplish. And Armin says, "The one time in the past that Eren used the Founder's power, Dinah, a Titan with royal blood, was eaten by a swarm of Titans. That wasn't Dinah's will, it was what Eren wanted." He goes on to say that it's most likely the person who holds the Founder's power that has control over the coordinate. And that means that whatever Zeke's planning, it won't work unless Eren wants it to. He says Eren's the one who decides what happens. As long as he shares our goals, it's not going to be a problem. And then Jean asks him, and what if he shares Zeke's goals? Armin just looks down for a moment and then he says, "The core has a medicine that can turn someone into a Titan. That means we have a choice." Everyone looks at him all shocked and Mikasa's like, "You don't mean..." And then Armin says, "The choice to turn someone else who we can trust into a Titan and have them inherit Eren's founder." Mikasa's like, "No." She stands up, she's like, "But Eren still has time left." And Armin's like, "I know. So we're going to find out Eren's true motives and prove it to everyone that Eren is on our side." And then we get a couple panels of Eren looking like he's plotting world domination or something. Then we cut to a little moment with Zeke and Levi. We see Gabby and Falco again. They made it to a river. And Falco starts telling her to take her armband off. It'll attract attention. But she doesn't want to. She says nobody will know what it is anyway. Then when Falco just rips it off her, she attacks him. She starts freaking out. She says, "I'm a good Eldian. I'm no different from the devils on this island without it." So she grabs it away from him and she says, "Why did you even bother following me? There's no reason that you had to die too." So of course it looks like Gabby still sees herself as different from the people on Paradis, and she sees her armband as a symbol of that. She wants to keep it on even though she's not in Marley anymore, because that's what a quote, good Eldian is supposed to do. They're interrupted by a woman in the woods. They tell her some lie about running away from home, and Gabby grabs a rock, like she's about to throw it at her. And Falco probably would have had to stop her if this lady hadn't mentioned food. So she turns around, Falco grabs a rock out of Gabby's hand. Freaking A, this girl is trigger happy, so to speak. And they presumably follow this lady back to her home and have some food. Now this is a good thing for Gabby, because as we just saw, Gabby sees herself as different from the people on Paradis. She sees them all as evil, as devils. She doesn't think she has anything in common with them. Then right at this moment, this lady walks up and asks them if they're hungry. So perhaps this act of kindness from this random person will help to change Gabby's mind. We finally cut back to Marley, and we see that they've supposedly recovered Zeke's body. But it's not Zeke's body, of course, because Zeke's body is in Paradis, and it's alive. So the body they actually pulled out was just some other random poor guy who's blown to bits. We see Magath talking with our warriors at a table, and they found out that Zeke deceived them on purpose. Somehow they realized that Zeke was allied with Paradis and escaped on their airship. And of course the person who figured all this out was Peak. She'd reasoned that Zeke had been planning this raid on Marley for 4 years, and put together a team of allies inside Marley. He also points out that the gear they were using incorporated modified Marleyan technology. So they realize that someone in Marley has been helping Paradis with technology for several years now. Galliard's all pissed off about it, of course. He's like, "We fought together all this time to think he was a traitor." And Magath is like, "We're not going to let this end here." And then he goes on to say, just as I'd predicted before, that all those dignitaries and news reporters that experienced that attack on Marley are going around the world telling everybody what a threat Paradis is, and that everybody came together right away to form a military alliance against them, just like Willie Tybert wanted. Then Magath says that that alliance is planning to conduct a scorched earth operation in 6 months, which upsets Colt because that's around the same time that they're planning to rescue Gabby and Falco. Magath tells him that it would be wiser to wait for the Global Alliance army to gather, otherwise they'll just be fought off again. And Reiner chimes in, he says Zeke must be thinking the same thing, that the Marleyan army won't move to attack immediately after taking such a massive blow. And he's not the kind of person who's just going to wait around with no plan until he's crushed 6 months later. And Magath asks, so you think Zeke's plotting something right now? Reiner says yes, he has to be thinking of something. And if we want to snuff that plan out, we can't wait for the Global Alliance army to gather. We need to launch a surprise attack on Paradis. Dun dun dun! So yeah, it looks like shit's about to hit the fan. Again, more shit. Lots of shit, all over the place. The Marleyans figured out that Zeke is alive, that he's on Paradis, and they're planning on doing what Magath calls a scorched earth operation, which does not sound very good. Sounds like they're literally just gonna burn Paradis to the ground. So things just keep looking worse and worse for our characters. For everybody, really. Trying to negotiate through his Zudu didn't work, which unfortunately is kinda to be expected. If the whole world wants to use Paradis as some kind of scapegoat for all the world's ills, and these attitudes of Eldians being evil or devils, or people who deserve to be punished, is so ingrained in the world culture, that sort of thing's not gonna change overnight. And because of that, Eren felt the need to preemptively attack Marley because he saw no other option. However, unfortunately, it seems like Eren's actions has just closed off any other remaining peaceful options that they might have, and accelerated the world's desire to take out Paradis. Although it seems like if they wanted to use the world's hatred of Paradis to maintain stability in the world, they probably wouldn't want to destroy them. But anyway, I guess things have changed a little bit now. But what if that was Eren's intention? I think I talked about this possibility way back in my discussion about Eren, that he may have attacked Marley in order to provoke a counterattack from them, so that everyone else on Paradis would be forced to agree to use the coordinate in order to protect themselves. After all, if Marley and the rest of the world plan on destroying Paradis, it would literally be the only way they could survive. So maybe Eren doesn't see it as limiting the options that they have. I think he may have started to see all this talk of another option as just futilely delaying the inevitable. That it was going to come down to this no matter what, and that it was better to do this now, while Zeke and Eren were both still alive, before Zeke's tenure is up. So what's up with Historia then? The guy in the beginning suspected that she got pregnant in order to save Zeke from being eaten early, which is what it sounds like Paradis originally wanted to do. So why would Historia want to help keep Zeke alive? He said that Yelena must have come to her, but what did she say to her? She convinced her somehow to get pregnant right now so that she wouldn't be able to eat Zeke yet. So why would she do that? Has Historia switched sides? Is she on Zeke's side now? Obviously, Yelena must have had a part in this, so could she be manipulating Historia? Or could she have threatened her? We know that Historia having a baby was part of Zeke's plan, so this is interesting. Unfortunately, under the circumstances, it looks like Paradis is kind of falling apart, including our characters. We've started to have a lot of disagreements on the inside now, but I think it's safe to say that some crazy shit's about to go down. Alright guys, well that's it for my chapter 108 review. Come back for my discussion videos on the weekends. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, comment, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Visit me on Facebook and Twitter, and check out my Patreon if you want to help support this channel. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.